heard in our last segment, the humans ate the buffalo. So, that was a big part in the Indians' lifestyle. The Indians used the buffalo in all sorts of ways. When they would hunt down the buffalo, they would use the buffalo skins for teepees, clothing, and all kinds of other stuff. But they also used other parts of the body. They used the meat, they used the bones for tools, the horns for cups, and even they just really knew how to use the buffalo. And even where they lived was based on the buffalo. They actually moved when the buffalo moved. So they came up with this type of house called a teepee that was quick to set up. It was nice, quick, good for any time when they felt like they needed to move. So they have their teepees, which had a flap at the top for letting smoke out, and they had a door flap, and it was pretty convenient for their situation. So, the women would actually be the ones who set up the teepees. So, when they would set them up, the men would actually have to ask permission before they were allowed to paint on the outside. So, in other words, it's like saying the woman owns the house. Well, teepees were not the only type of house that they ever lived in. During the winter months, when the buffalo were not moving around, they would make these houses called earth lodges that held in heat better. They took a while more to move, but were still pretty portable, pretty quick. So they also had a storage type of building called a wigwam, and they would put the poles for the teepees there in the winter months, and they would store other things in there too. But they valued a lot the poles because there weren't very many trees in the Great Plains. So yeah, they really valued those poles. So that's where they'd store the stuff, and then you can imagine how life changed for them when they had to move on the reservation. One, Americans were hunting their buffalo and killing them for sport, whereas they used every part of the buffalo. And they couldn't hunt buffalo anymore because they had to stay in one place. So they really had to do a lot of adapting. So, as you can see, you wouldn't really be very happy being them. So, your whole lifestyle would have changed. So now we've learned about lifestyle, and we'll be moving on to the dances. The first dance we are going to be learning about is the sun dance. Sundance was a prayer for life, world renewal, and Thanksgiving. During the dance, they would take out ritual objects and use them in the way that they were intended to be used, and they would also have coals that the smoke that came off of them would carry the prayers up to the spirits. They would do sun dances, for the most part, 12 times a year. But one additional one that was 3 to 4 days long in July. During the dance, there would be a drum beat going on, and that would represent the heart of the universe. the dancers would dance toward and away from a center bar that was in the middle of a bunch of a line, it was in the center, and then there were a bunch of wooden poles around it. So from an aerial view, it looked like a wheel with a spoke in the center. This was not a normal dance. It was a brutal dance. Dancers would oftentimes collapse, and when this would happen, they would get visions for the good of their tribe. So, in other words, the sun dance was kind of like a community vision quest. At one point in time, though, the sun dance was outlawed for two reasons. One, we just wanted to westernize the plains. The second reason is they inflicted pain upon themselves during it, so it just was not a pretty sight. But eventually, it started up again, and so it wasn't forever outlawed. Now we're going to move on to our next topic, the ghost dance. So for the ghost dance, it was one, a prayer for generation, and the other point was that during the dance, it was said that you could visit dead relatives. Now, in the ghost dance, these Indians that had been at war came together, and they tried to have peace. This ghost dance started in the 1800s, so it was not a very old tradition. So, we didn't like the ghost dance. We were scared of it because these Indians that were violent, or used to be violent, were now joining together. And that scared us a lot. It scared us so much that in the massacre of Wounded Knee, we shot down dancers, women, and children. So, even though this really was harmless, we took it completely wrong. You could imagine how it hurt these people. So, they still practice the ghost dance today, but it's more of a private thing. They don't do it publicly. White Deer of Autumn says that the purpose is the same, and that they still had lost relatives. They lost them to cancer and alcohol these days, and they really do it because they feel that this earth desperately needs healing.